Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation from zero to production FHIR server in 6 months in a large health system. Who am I? I am Nicholas Lorenzen. I go by Nick. I'm Director of Software Engineering on the Northwell Emerging Technology Innovation team at Northwell Health. We are a team that kind of pushes the limits, always looking for new technology to apply in real world settings and go to production to ultimately deliver value to our users, which in many cases are clinicians. I enjoy hands-on development and architecture of cloud-native applications in the healthcare domain. I've been working in healthcare for over a decade, both on the payer and provider side of things. So I've seen both sides of it and really just enjoy the healthcare industry and the challenges that we have and the constant evolution that we go through. What makes Northwell Health a large health system? So we're the 14th largest health system in the US. We have 21 hospitals, over 6,000 beds. As you can see, we spread not only across Long Island primarily, but also in each borough of New York, as well as outside of the New York City, Long Island area. We have strategic alliances with other health systems across the country and even across the world. And about 550 plus ambulatory physician practices. So we bridge both inpatient and outpatient world in the New York City area. FHIR at Northwell. All right, so talk a little story here. So on our team, we have an application called Nora, and Nora is pictured here with this icon. Nora is essentially a clinician's virtual assistant. It is both a chatbot and traditional UI kind of mixed together to give physicians the ability to ask and access information in a really quick manner. This is a non-traditional application, but mixes in traditional components. And our goal with Nora, right, is to really help with physician burnout, allow clinicians to access the information they need when they need it, and even be proactive about certain aspects of information, giving them data and information that they can make decisions quickly on patient care, right? Excuse me. Nora is in the process of being migrated over to be completely powered by FHIR, right? And we have system of records. We have many system of records as Northwell has acquired more hospitals that are, doing the traditional HL7 feeds. We have a health information exchange that receives the majority of these HL7 feeds and ends up broadcasting out what we call HL7 derived events, right? That we can listen into and convert to FHIR. Right. For more information, Lauren, click the link below. And along with the story, so kind of learning from the past and move forward. FHIR is not necessarily a new topic at Northwell. It's been somewhat of a contentious topic. There's been attempts to use various vendors and try different things. Our team personally has tried various open source technologies and whatnot to stand up a FHIR repo, but we have a great deal of data, 21 hospitals. And it's made some challenges. We're also a smaller team. So, with that being said, with past FHIR repo attempts, it's left us with a lot of expensive infrastructure, even in the cloud. And the performance, once we get things stood up and tested and whatnot, begins to degrade quickly. As the title or the description of the presentation alludes to, we have over 10 terabytes of data that we're dealing with that we've acquired over the course of the year from other systems. And as we're pushing that into traditional FHIR repos, the performance starts to have massive performance. This is not uncommon. So as the Northwell Emerging Technology Innovation team, we're always seeking to take things to the next level. So what we're basically, learning from other instances, we looked at and saying, what do we want, right? So really we wanted a fully managed cloud-based FHIR repo, right? We want to turn the key and go. That's pretty much it. We want to pay for storage and compute, ideally, a request-based payment model. but nothing else. We don't necessarily want to manage the infrastructure, as doing so takes a lot of time and effort. We want cost-effective and predictable billing. That would be ideal. We know our traffic and we can budget based on that. We need high performance, even with complex searches. Our users expect the sub-second response times. That's what makes NORA great. What takes 7 to 9 minutes to find in the EMR, we can retrieve in a second. That's our big selling point, and we need that. We need that to be reliably done as well. And we also want support for the most search capabilities defined in the spec. No two FHIR repos are the same. Some have all the search capabilities, some have a limited set. And we want to find that happy medium of all of these 4 bullet points where we can leverage as much of these search capabilities to do interesting things based on use cases that are defined to us. So really, we want to cover cake needed to. So our journey. Now this journey does have some precursors to it. And again, as I alluded to in the last slide, we have tried out the FHIR repos and acquired data, but nothing to the point where we say this is the FHIR repo that we're going forward with at Northwell, and we use the production side. There's always some gotcha. So in December 2020, we kicked off a project where we did a pretty extensive POC with the Google or GCP Cloud Healthcare API, which is a turnkey fully managed FHIR repo. We pushed a lot of data to it. We tested it in various scenarios based on things that we found problems with in the past, and it also gave us that predictable billing and really great performance and search capabilities despite the traffic that we pushed to it. Right, January 2021. We concluded our POC retrospective. I think one thing to note here is that traditionally December is a month with holidays and people are out, but we were able to go really, really fast and prove out the Google's capabilities because of how easy it was, to set up in the UI, to turn it on and go. Right. So we did a POC retrospective, and then we started to think about how we're going to map our non-FHIR sources for our data pipelines. This is these HL7 derived events that in the past we used other technologies that relied on other vendors to convert from, say, an HL7 style format to FHIR. We wanted to get rid of those. We wanted to do our own thing, and we wanted to map and control that process because we had run into problems before. February 2021, the data mapping continues, right? And we also started engineering our data pipelines. In this case, we're using new technologies. We're using things like, because we were doing most of the stuff on the GCP, Google Cloud Platform, we're using things like Dataflow, Apache Beam, even liquid templates, things that may not come together in a lot of Python, things that may not traditionally come together, but our team had experience with in the past, and we had to put it together, and it worked for us really well. March 2021, right? Mapping was done. We were doing a lot of refinements. We're continuing engineering data pipelines. April 2021, we set up our production style repo, right? We started loading in and importing in the 10 terabytes of FHIR resources that we had previously from other FHIR repos that were never production grade, right? And we, did some extensive testing with data pipelines. And then May 2021, right? We finally fully deployed our data pipelines to production. Again, I signed up for this community session prior to our deployment of data pipelines, but we were confident in what we were doing and driving towards the end. So I knew by the time I would do this conference or do this community session that we would have a fully functioning FHIR repo with data pipelines. And we're constantly testing and tuning and doing mapping refinements and moving our application that had talked to a lot of different data sources to FHIR. Right? Some production stats, we're handling 2 million HL7 derived bundles. It's anywhere between 10 to 15 million individual resources posted to FHIR repo today. At peak times, really you're looking at 20 to 75 bundles received per second. It's very bursty, very 9 to 5-ish style traffic. At night, the traffic is a lot less. It easily supports 15,000 plus NORA users without concern. And we store anywhere between 200 to 500 gigabytes of data per month derived from our source systems. And to talk about lessons learned, right? Mapping never finishes. even when you're done, right? We said we were done with mapping, but constantly found changes, differences, things that we wanted to elaborate on. There's always skeletons in the closet. No matter how much you think your mapping is good, you're always going to find something else that potentially needs a check. So be prepared, right? To not get it right always the first time, and to come back and correct your FHIR resource. Set up, have processes ready, and it's very easy to do this in FHIR, to crawl through resources and update them and correct that data. It doesn't require a full reload or whatnot, but it's just interacting with the FHIR data, which FHIR REST model gives us, interaction model gives us a really easy way of doing that. Be elegant when integrated with data sources to FHIR. Our approaches in the past were really to just throw all these HL7 derived events at a FHIR repo, and that didn't work out well, right? HL7, right, defines event types, and with that, we got a lot smarter about the different, we analyzed up front the different event types during our mapping process and said, okay, for each event type, what are we actually updating? Do we need to update patient and encounter when we get an order? No. We only do that maybe with an ADT, AO1, or an AO8. So be smart. Only update what you really need to update, and create an insert only what you need to create an insert. This will also save you money when you're doing a fully managed FHIR repo, because you're not creating, if it's built based on requests, you're not going to be submitting data that's charging you when you don't really need to do it. It reduces your traffic, it reduces a lot of noise and confusion and issues that could potentially happen. And it's a little bit smarter. You control your data, right? Prioritize patient merges. Patient merges in FHIR is far from mature. There's some documentation things out there, some theories, I guess you could say, about how to approach patient merges. I think every org has a similar style of patient merge, depending on various situations. Find out what you need to do, prioritize that up, and figure out the best way of doing it. What we do is probably different from maybe what others do, but think about that up first, how you're going to do that, how you're going to achieve that, because it can bite you in the butt later in time. Take it from us. Prioritize patient merges. And then lastly, parallelization plus bundles is your difficult thing, right? Why is it difficult? Really, parallelization is the difficult part. Traditional on-premise techniques of data integration, while they can occur in the cloud, don't necessarily need to occur, and also don't necessarily translate, right? In our world of HL7 events, we're very much used to order. But even then, you can still maintain an order of a patient while handling data in a parallelized fashion. By parallelizing your data, right, or parallelizing your ingestion points, you can handle more and more events without being delayed or whatnot, right? So leverage what your FHIR repo can do, right? FHIR repos have a REST interface, so they can handle multiple requests at a time. Set up workers to insert that data as quickly as possible, so that data is available for your users. You're not behind, you're not dealing with many different pipelines, but really kind of a single pipeline that is working with many workers. This has proven to be hard, but worthwhile for us, as we can handle a great deal of traffic that our on-premise data sources that are far more mature than us struggle with on a day-to-day basis. We can just outperform them more than anything. So these are the main lessons learned. So again, keep evolving, right? Don't worry about mistakes and issues. You can always address them in FHIR, right? You can always correct them without having to, set up elaborate HL7 feeds and whatnot. Prioritize those patient merges, and think cloud native, think parallelization, concurrency, think about bundling, right? If you can batch your messages together rather than send each individual FHIR resources, you're not only going to be able to increase your throughput by batching through bundles, but you're also going to save money, because a bundled request is cheaper than sending many individual requests. So use those kind of things in your mind when you're setting up your own FHIR repo. I appreciate your time. This is my contact information. I'm available in the speaker gallery and via email. And I'm open to questions and answers. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Nick, thanks so much for that informative presentation. Yes, Nick, thank you. Hi, this is Pat Guerra with HL7, and we did have a question come in. So Nick, I'll go ahead and read the first question. We actually have a few, so we have 5 minutes left. We'll get through what we can, and then
Sure.
you know, Nick has shared his contact information as well in case we don't get to your question. So the first one, in FHIR, are depreciated URI for merged records not directed with HTTP 301?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I fully understand this one. So when I talked about patient merges in the presentation, it was more about, so upstream of our FHIR repo, we get notified that a patient's complete record has changed from one medical record to another. And when I'm referring to that particular scenario, it's how we pick all the data up for one patient, merge it to another. So I don't know necessarily how to answer that one. We're not necessarily doing a 301, and the FHIR repo is not doing the 301, and we're not doing it on our application. I'm really referring more towards just making sure you're keeping your patients aligned from your upstream systems.
Okay, and then as far as whoever asked that, if you want to follow up with Nick, you can message.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, message him in Huva or. And then the next question starts with a compliment. Impressive stuff. Have you taken any extra measures when it comes to encryption? Is the data encrypted? And if so, how?
Well, thank you for the compliment. In terms of encryption, yes, encryption data is encrypted at rest and in transit using TLS, your standard encryption models.
Okay, good. Let's see, we can wait here for just a minute. I don't see any other questions currently in the chat. If anyone wants to send another one, we have time for maybe one more question. Oh yes, I see one more. This question is, do you allow different upstream systems to update the same FHIR resource?
We allow different, yes. So that does happen, which is tricky sometimes, but yeah, it does happen.
Okay, and then let's see if we can squeeze in this next question since that was a quick answer. Do you need to perform data reconciliation, and how do you do patient merges?
Okay, so that's a pretty long question. To answer the question about reconciliation, yes, all day, every day. In fact, one of the guys, huge shout out to, I think he's on the call, DQ, he's one of my developers. He's constantly reconciling all day, every day. And then to do merges right now, which I hope to make it a little bit more elegant in the future, we essentially do a dollar everything and merge the record from one patient to the new patient, because we get who is being merged into, which is not elegant, not ideal, and not a long-term solution, but it's allows us to move forward and allows us to get what we need done. And we're always looking for new opportunities to make that process better, and hoping, you know, in the FHIR community, it will also become a little bit more mature and well-defined. We also work with Google too, to let them know our struggles and whatnot.
Yes, yes. Okay, that's important as well. So excellent. Well, I believe we've been able to address all the questions, but if you do, to our participants, if you do have a question, please find Nick on Huva this week during the Dev Days. And we would just want to thank you again, Nick, for the presentation, and thank everyone for participating.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.